Well, while you're bringing it up so that we can save a little bit of time, I'm going to make a closing statement. And my closing statement is to remind people that companies like Monsanto have been developing hybrid products from wheat to sheep and patenting them. They are patenting living creatures by changing them slightly genetically. And let me ask you what you think that they're doing with the chemtrails and spraying nanoparticles and other things onto us. And I'm going to bring up this question. Are they basically telling the legal system that with all the nanoparticles that we are breathing in that are changing us, that we are now not the humans we were born to be? And now, because we have their nanoparticles in us, do we belong to them? Are we now copyrighted or patented and have no rights whatsoever because we are owned by them? And this is something that you may want to tell those people who don't think that they're targeted or don't think they're targeted yet, because if this is true, then the entire population can be patented, copyrighted, enslaved. So let me throw that out there as a possibility and a talking point with people who are not necessarily targeted with this, but they will be targeted as possessions and property, and they will have no rights whatsoever.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Oh, I've now got I have now the actual image from image that Millicent was referring to. And whilst I show you, I'll also explain some more things, because I think you're right, Karen. We have no rights. We have been defined away from being human and having our own birthrights. So let me just share my screen. And the image that Millicent was referring to, I think, Millicent, am I right that it's this one here, where one can see that in your jaw, there's this little transformer thing, and you can see how there's this coil in the middle, and then there are two arms lodging it into her jaw, but also acting potentially as small antennas, right? Into two different. Right. Yes, I'll make it bigger. Hang on. There's the zoom.
That's the finger of the chiropractor that found it, actually, that actually took and he did write a letter stating that he had found it, and that particular object C1, and I've had chronic inflammation at C1 of my brain documented since 2009.
That's incredible. So I want people to have a look. So, you know, this huge thing, right? It's in her jaw. And the people who have put it there really have to, you know, I'll make it as big as I can. So here you can see the coil, and you can see an arm here, and then you can see an arm there. So that's what has been put into Millicent. It's absolutely shocking, really. And what I wanted to say is that Karen is right. Karen is absolutely right that we have been defined away from humans. I think it's very insightful that she said that our genetics is being modified and therefore we're not defined to be humans. I think some sort of, you know, a legal quirk like that will certainly be used. One thing that I'm personally aware of and has been confirmed by Karen Hudes, the ex-general counsel of the World Bank, is also that at birth, our birth certificates, you know, are converted into certificates of ownership and are floated on the stock market. So as crazy as that sounds, that is true. That has been now confirmed many, many times. And what they do, with they, I mean the banks and the people who consider themselves our slave owners, is that they calculate our potential output, so tax payments over our lifetime and all other things, and they will put a value to us, and that's what's traded on the stock market. And this is slave trade. So we already traded as slaves and have been. Everybody with a birth certificate is already in the system. And well, apart from the cartel holders themselves, of course. And there are many, many other quirks like that. Also, I think it has been made public that the entire legal architecture is not what we believe it to be. I think there are also some loopholes where people were trying to get around the common law and are using, what's it called, the law of the sea, so Admiralty law, or whatever however it's pronounced, in US courts. Also, they are slipping in Roman law, and other things, you know. And in Roman law, I think I might even have it up. There's one case, hang on, I think, yes, this is what it's called. So if you look it up on definitions, uslegal.com, let me just share my screen, because I think this is what's happening to us right now. I think through different contracts with what's it called, the royalties and so on, the US and other countries have been sold into ownership to the Vatican, which is otherwise known as organized crime. So the Vatican, as I said many times, has been for centuries in deep capture, if not millennia, by organized crime. And so when I say the Vatican, I actually mean an organized crime conglomerate. But they are operating under Roman law, and under Roman law, there's something called capitis diminutio law, and it has 3 forms, and this is how a person can lose their rights, their personal rights, you know, in the olden days. So there's this capitis diminutio minima, then the same thing media, and then maxima. And I think all of us, I think around the world, frankly, but certainly the targeted individuals fall into this 3rd category, which is consisting of the loss of liberty, citizenship, and family. Here, a person's status is changed from freedom to bondage. And in capitis diminutio maxima, there's the highest loss of status. And I think by some legal quirk, as crazy as that sounds, we have been pushed into that category, certainly in the minds of the cartel holders, if not legally. And that might explain why you can see 84 or 85 microsieverts being again shot into me. So I've just received my 2nd chest x-ray for today.
Let me emphasize that this is all legal sleight of hand. It is not legal, no matter what they say. It goes against the Constitution. Marbury versus Madison pretty much sealed the fact that anything that goes against our Constitution, any law, anything even less than a law, is void, period. So unless you follow illegal laws, they are not valid. So stop and demand that you have your constitutional rights, and basically tell them to go run, jump in a lake with all of these unconstitutional laws and anything else that they care to throw at you. They're not constitutional, period. And you better stand on it or you're going to lose it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And in legal circles, I think what's floated is that because some monarchs a very long time ago secretly made agreements to sell everybody in the US into slavery, it's valid. And also, you know, as has been revealed, the US is technically an interregnum because they use clauses to put, you know, the Constitution out of power and into martial law sort of scenarios. But what I would say is that if an entire nation is completely ignorant of this fact, you know, you can't have an entire nation operating completely obliviously to the fact that they've been under martial law. And just because 2 people behind a closed door signed an agreement, that's going to, you know, change an entire nation. No, it's what it is what the intelligence agencies have always done. It's deception. It's a sleight of hand, as you had said, and it's a con. This entire thing is just a con, because what the Constitution is, it is actually a convention. It's a convention that an entire nation signs up to. And, you know, when the majority of people say, no, as far as we're concerned, the Constitution is in force and should have been in force all along, even going back to 1871, then it will be in force. And what you can do is go to court and say, I want my constitutional rights, and should they not apply, I want you to produce the document, either my slave certificate that you're trading on the stock market, or some Roman law document showing that you've got rights, the rights to actually assault me and murder me. Or you should produce the documents that show that we're under martial law. And I promise you, they will not do that. Because for that, they would have to, for a simple court case, they would have to dig out the fact that they have been lying to a nation of, you know, several 100 million people for, you know, over a century. And they will not do that for a court case. So what you will end up with is you will walk out with your rights.
Yeah, and I should also say this is an issue of human rights. and intrinsic organic rights, the rights that we are all born onto the planet with. Nobody can lay claim to you, not even the Pope, even though an ancient Pope at some point in time, wrote down on a piece of paper that he owned the sky and the trees and the air and so on and so forth. What absolute nonsense. These popes are seriously deluded and they should be locked up if this is what they go around saying. So quite apart from that, so I just wanted to point that out. And the other thing is, as far it's not just if the Constitution is not being enforced. I think the point that you made is brilliant. Okay, ask them to show us their enslavement certificates of us. Show me in a piece of paper that I'm your slave. Show me in a piece of paper that the entire country is under martial law. Show it to me, and then we'll take it from there. And if that's what they think that they are doing, then that is the point at which you have to ask the question, excuse me, what kind of system is this where everybody is enslaved? What exactly is going on here? This is not a democracy, right? And I'm sorry, but we prefer to live in democracies, and we need to take the right steps to move back to a situation of democracy. Sorry, Millicent, I think I cut you off. Go ahead. That's my closing statement, by the way.